I am here to present Tao of the Day. Tao of the Day is a program that I started over maybe close to 2 years ago. Mm, Maybe over 2 years ago. No, one whole year. Yeah, probably a year and a half ago. Um, doesn't matter really. But it is where I read you your Tao for the day. How do we get your Tao for the day? You pick a number between 1 and 81 because the Tao consists of 81 chapters of all sorts of enigmatic wisdom, and it's a little poetic and beautiful, and it helps us live a more reasonable life. The text therein um is all about living a more reasonable life. We can translate Tao Te Ching into the canon of reason. And it is all about being reasonable. And what does it mean to be reasonable? Well, it is not reasonable to ask others to change for us. It is not reasonable to not accept what is. It is not reasonable to um, want things for ourselves. So he says, because when we want things for ourselves, we set ourselves up for failure. We set ourselves up to be challenged. So what I do, so I had this experience yesterday where I'm working with a group. I wanted to set something up. I set it up, and then one person in my group decided to undercut me and get that thing that I set up canceled. And not canceled in the way we talk about people being canceled, just like the thing that I wanted to get done, the thing that I set up to do was removed, and ultimately floors didn't get cleaned. So what? It's no big deal. But because I had taken pride in supporting the people who were going to be displaying work in that room, I set myself up to be challenged. And when this person who is junior to me went around my back or whatever, however we want to look at it, went over my head, to get this, the floor clean canceled, I got really irritated. And I had to be able to recognize that I don't care really. I mean, the floor is going to be clean. It's going to be clean, whatever. I don't really care if the people that are in the show have a clean floor. I don't care if the floor is clean for the opening. I don't care. Like it would, those things should be done, sure. But whatever. It's not that big of a deal. And it's not going to get done. And it's not going to get done because this kid wanted to do that. Well, and that's all fine. I have to be able to let go of all of the ideas that I had. See, I had ideas in my mind of like, oh, well, when this is clean, it'll be nice. They'll have, like I have all these sorts of ideas of what that's attached to. It's attached to respect for these kids and all of these things, but none of that's really true. I don't really care. I mean, I don't care if the floor gets cleaned or not, and I could utilize I could fake it. I could care more than I actually do. Um and get upset and say he did this thing to me, or he did this thing and he's going against all of these ideas that I have. Or I could just let it go. you know I can just let it go, and I can just be like, this is just how you're experiencing it. I'm just currently experiencing this happen, and it's okay that it happens. So I'm going to read number 38 today, The Dissolution of Tao. The masters have nothing to prove, making their power self-evident. Others continue to grasp at power, thus they never have enough. Masters needn't do a thing, so in so doing, nothing is disregarded. Others are constantly doing, leaving everything else still to be done. The kind man does, and in so doing, reveals all that remains undone. The just man does, and in so doing, reveals all that still needs to be done. The moral man does, and when no one supports, and when there is no support, will use force to gain consensus. When Tao is lost, we lean on etiquette. When that fails, we turn to morality. When morality dissolves, we teach ritual. Those who have only known ritual are filled with shadow and ignorance. Therefore, the master concerns herself with the substance, not the shadow. She has no destination, only to reside within herself, not the manifestation. So let me take this in consideration with the floor being cleaned for these art students that I'm working with. Lou, keep it down. So I see this in everything that I'm doing. I see this dissolution of Tao in this experience I had. Masters have nothing to prove. Now, when this kid who is junior to me goes over my head and says like we don't want to clean the floors or whatever, um I immediately have to prove myself. But really, I don't have to prove myself, and I know I don't have to prove myself. In proving myself is where I get upset. And then how am I going to treat this kid now that I'm upset? Right? This is proving myself. This is me proving what proving my status, proving my place in the team, proving all sorts of stuff. But I don't have anything to prove, and I don't need to prove anything. So I can let that go. So masters have nothing to prove, making their power self-evident. So if I don't have anything to prove and I don't have to get upset about anything, well, whatever, it's fine. And then I could go, like I could start the argument from here, like, well, what about the floor? Right? What about the floor? That's not gonna get done or whatever. And then we have to look at the later verses, the later lines. The master needn't do a thing, and in so doing, nothing is disregarded. I did my part. Now, whatever. It gets done, it doesn't get done. It's not going to change anything, whether the floors are clean or not. Some people probably wouldn't even notice. So as we go through this, I'm gonna just keep coming back to this story of my having got upset yesterday. And it really kind of leading into today too, like I saw my mind go, and I kept supporting it with all of the things that made me right, like all the things that I was proving. But the masters have nothing to prove, making their power self-evident. Others continue to grasp at power, thus they never have enough. I don't want to do that. I don't want to grasp at power. Once I start grasping at power, I won't ever have enough. And in not having enough, I will continue to grasp at power, and it ever um won't ever be enough. I will constantly be in this space of grasping at power. Grasping at power around this, grasping at power around all of the all of pardon me. Masters needn't do a thing. In so doing, nothing is disregarded. Others are constantly doing, leaving everything else still to be done. This is this is where I was dissolving into, right? I was dissolving into this needs to be done, this needs to be done, this needs to be done. No, it doesn't. I need to do what I need to do, they need to do what they need to do, and everything is in balance and we're good. I don't need to say anything to this kid. I don't need to do anything. I don't need to get these floors cleaned. It's okay. The master needn't do a thing. I did what I did out of sheer just Like I spoke to the custodian and was like, "Hey, we need to get these cleaned." Da da da. And then and he was excited about it. I was excited about it, and then some kid overheard it and decided to go over my head and change it. So what? It doesn't matter. Like floors aren't cleaned. Who cares? You know? I don't have to attach myself to the action of what I did. Because as I attach myself to the action and need to prove myself, Tao is dissolving within me. My connection to Tao is what is being dissolved. Tao isn't actually dissolving. I am just no longer connected to it, and then there's rift in my own life. So then we have these, as we're kind of going through this verse, we have these three ways of doing, right? The kind man does, the just man does, and the moral man does. Now, the kind man does, and in so doing, reveals all that remains undone. The just man does, and in so doing, reveals all that still needs to be done. The moral man does, and when there is no support, will use force to gain consensus. Okay, so I could fall under each of these categories for this experience, right? I could be kind, and my argument is, well, don't you want to like have a clean floor for these students so that they can have a good show and they can do all of these sorts of things and stuff? But in so doing, I reveal all that remains undone. All of a sudden, the glass on the windows needs to be cleaned as well. Well, shouldn't you clean that? If you're going to have the floor clean, shouldn't you clean that? And then, well, shouldn't you get the right wattage bulbs for every single light in the place? Shouldn't that be done? Well, shouldn't you have repainted the whole gallery instead of just patching it up? You know? Because I'm trying to be kind. My argument is, well, this is good for the kids that are going to be having this show, but what about all the other things that remain undone? I'm just focused on the one thing that hurts me. I'm focused on the one thing that made me upset. I become the kind man, and my argument is revolving around the kind things. But in that revolving around the kind things, all of a sudden everything else starts to fall into place. All of the other things now. Well, if you want to clean the floor, then what about the windows? And what about the gallery? And what about the paint? And what about the signage? I mean, I put the signage up and it's a little crooked. Wouldn't it be better to redo the signage? Wouldn't that be more kind to the students now that all of these arguments are starting to come up, right? Now that I am grasping at doing. The just man does, and in so doing, reveals all that still needs to be done. So what that what that looks like is, well, last year they had this. Now like now it's about a just sort of thing. Now it's about being just. My argument could very well be, well, they're going to get this, they're not going to get this. This is unjust. It's unjust for these kids to not experience a clean floor. But in so doing, reveals all that still needs to be done, all the things that are unjust in the process. And things that, well, if you're going to try and equal that out, what about equaling out everything else? I'm not gonna argue about that. The only thing I'm arguing is that the floors need to be cleaned. The moral man does, and when there is no support, will use force against to gain consensus. So my arguments also fall under the category of, I mean, I don't know if we can go as far as moral or morality, but this is what starts to happen is I start to forcibly argue that, like, I said this should be done and this should be done because of, hierarchy and other things like that. And you know, I start to force my argument so that it fits a into a narrative in which it is clear I am the victim, and in so doing, I'm forcing people to take a side. I'm forcing people to so I can gain consensus so that I'm right. These are the things that I have seen myself do over the last 12 hours since I learned about the floor not getting cleaned, and it happening after I set it up with such an open heart and I didn't care, and then all of a sudden something happened that made me care deeply. And that's the problem. We got to not care. It's not that we don't care about how we do things or whatever. It's good to care. But the more we care, the more we get into this place of like having to um, care in such a way that if it doesn't get done in a certain way, or if it doesn't get done the way I want it to, then I am no longer right. Like then I am going to make an argument about it. I am going to need to prove myself. And that's what's happening here, right? This is the dissolution of Tao. The masters have nothing to prove, making their power self-evident. And others continue to grasp at power, thus they never have enough. Masters needn't do a thing. In so doing, nothing is disregarded. I didn't do anything to get that floor cleaned, right? I went to the guy who I know cleans the floors. I had asked him to clean that floor before. It didn't happen. I mean, he cleaned it before. He was happy about it. He loved that he could do it. He knew he could get around the artwork. Everything was going to be fine. And what ended up happening? Someone else decided to step in and say, we're not going to do it. And that's fine. Like, I did my part. So what happens here is when Tao is lost, we lean on etiquette. So what would happen if I lost my Tao, right? If I lost my connection to Tao, if I lost my awareness of Tao in this moment, what would happen is I would lean on etiquette. What's the right thing to do to approach this situation so that I can make sure this never happens again? Right? There's an etiquette to that. There's an etiquette to writing that email. There's an etiquette to, going through the proper channels and making sure that everything kind of falls in place. When that fails, we turn to morality. Right? All of a sudden, I would be saying, well, this isn't right. When morality dissolves, we teach ritual. And this is ultimately where we are at in a job situation where you have ritual. You have a hierarchy and you go through that hierarchy. And so, what I would probably do is go through the ritual of going through the hierarchy of the organization so that I can make sure that this kid doesn't do what he did again, because I need to prove myself to the world around me. I need to prove what I have done. Why? Because Tao has it's not like it's not in me. I am just not taking it into consideration. I am not consulting Tao in my next move because I am lost in needing to prove myself. And that's how this is really kind of unfolding. Like, what I'm doing is I'm offended by this fucking kid, like all of these things, right? And by having those feelings, my mind races and I don't recognize the whole. I don't recognize that this is good. This is Tao, and it's okay. Like, I'm not leaving things undone. I'm utilizing that as an excuse to be angry, sure. But I'm not actually leaving things undone. I did everything. When Tao is lost, we lean on etiquette. When that fails, we turn to morality. When morality dissolves, we teach ritual. Those who have only known ritual, those of us who have only known hierarchies, and those of us who have only known, like, well, when this happens, when A happens, we do B, and then when B happens, we do C, and then that's it. Those who have only known ritual are filled with shadow and ignorance. And that's what could happen to me if I get stuck in this argument, if I get stuck in this place of he did something to me because I was trying to get something, who cares? I don't have to care. The floor didn't get cleaned. Is that the end of the world? No, it doesn't matter. If people bring it up, so what? Nobody has. But if someone were to bring up the floors aren't clean, I can be like, well, okay, well, I mean, I'll address it in the moment, but I can always say, well, you can talk to Ryan. He wanted them not cleaned. You can talk to the dean. He wanted them not cleaned. But really, it doesn't matter. Therefore, the master concerns himself with the substance, not the shadow. What's the substance? The substance here, right? The substance here is this is an event that's coming together through a team, and there is love within me that is connected to everything, not the shadow, not the stuff that's happening. None of that matters. She has no destination. I don't care. I mean, if I get scolded for having tried to get the floors cleaned, well, I'll deal with that, and I don't care. Like, that's what would have to happen then. That's, you know, I don't have a destination. I don't care where I'm going. I'm just here, living as I am. And I don't need to be caught up in all this stuff. I don't need to be caught up in the manifestation. She has no destination, only to reside within herself. That's her only destination, only to reside within herself. And that's what I'm not doing when I get upset about little petty shit. When I get upset about petty stuff like a floor not being cleaned or someone sending an email or whatever, like all of that is just, it doesn't have any bearing on me, and yet I allowed it to, right? And so my only destination is to reside within myself, not the manifestation. In the manifestation, the floors aren't getting clean. Do I care? No. Why? It's just manifestation. It is just a fleeting sort of experience of physicality. It isn't the reality of me. It isn't the reality of what is. It is just reflecting that which is. And so, I mean, if I feel undermined, where am I undermining myself? Where am I undermining my experience? Where am I not allowing myself to be in control? Maybe if that's part of the story as to what I'm experiencing. Maybe that's it. Maybe I need to look there. But through all of this, there's this dissolution of Tao in my experience, right? Like I'm not having the experience of being connected with Tao. I mean, I'm connected with Tao, of course, but I am allowing my ego to have the experience rather than have the experience through Tao. I'm having it through ego. And I'm sitting around with things to prove. Masters have nothing to prove, making their power self-evident. Others continue to grasp at power, thus they never have enough. Masters needn't do a thing, and so doing nothing is disregarded. I don't have to do anything, and I won't disregard anything. Every day I can just wake up and do whatever is here to be done, and nothing will be disregarded. Others are constantly doing, leaving everything else still to be done. That's the thing. The more you do, the more has to be done. But when you just like everything just kind of gets done. I've been remodeling my house and all of this kind of stuff, and in so doing, I feel overwhelmed. And when I feel overwhelmed, well, I start to, feel like, oh, I got to do this, I got to do that, and then I got to remember, I got to relax. It's not about doing it all at a certain time. It's just about allowing it to be done, you know. And once I start getting into that place of constantly doing, constantly like filling my list with things to do, well, guess what? Leaving everything else is still to be done. There's always more. There's always more. When I can be like, no, I'm not going to do. And then, yeah, of course, things will get done. That's not like you can't wake up in the morning and live a whole day and not get things done. Things will get done. Like, I mean, even this morning, I mean, here it is 6:30 in the morning. I've already gone out, cut down a couple grapevines, lifted some weights, moved some artwork. Like, things got done. I didn't realize that they were getting done. And now I'm thinking about it. I'm like, wow, I mean, it's 6:30 in the morning and I did all of that stuff already. All of that stuff just got done. That's all. Wasn't like I'm sitting here, you know, constantly doing. I didn't have this list of things that I needed to do. I just did it. The things just got done. It then breaks it down into three different kinds of doing: the kind doer, the just doer, and the moral doer. These are three kinds, and I can see those three different arguments when I can see those three different arguments that I made around the arguments that I was having. And then it wraps up: when Tao is lost, we lean on etiquette. When that fails, we turn to morality. When morality dissolves, we teach ritual. And I was talking to Julie yesterday on here, and we were talking about the evolution of things, and that's really what this is: the dissolution of um, our nature, really. When Tao is lost, we lean on etiquette. Now, there was a time when we were more group oriented, and so getting uh, excommunicated and stuff was the worst thing that can happen. Well, that's less the case now. Like, you don't care if you get excommunicated, you just make another group wherever you go. When that fails, we turn to morality. Um, so we lean on etiquette. You got to be nice to people. Um, whatever. I think I went off on a tangent with that group thing. Therefore, the master concerns herself with the substance, not the shadow. She has no destination, only to reside within herself, not the manifestation. And I would suggest that we all need to be able to look at it that way, right? We all need to be able to look at it like there is no destination. The manifestation is less important than we give it credit for, and we need to reside within ourselves and within that connection with Tao that we have been born with. And when we do that, we can really disregard all of we can not care about the outcome of the manifestation. Like I mean, I applied for a job recently, and I was doing this other thing recently, and it's like all of those things I could be very attached to an outcome. But in attaching myself to an outcome, I'm residing within the manifestation, not within myself. Knowing that I am greater than the manifestation, knowing that I and all of the connections that I have with the universe is greater than the manifestation, I don't have to sit and just take whatever the manifestation gives me. I could grow beyond that, and I can be beyond that. Julie's going to join me and pick a number. Great. So yeah, so that is the dissolution of Tao, and that has and I've struggled with it. How's it going?
All right, yeah, I'm going to let you just finish up, and then I've got a number.
Yeah, so yeah, I was just talking about an experience I had recently, and it was it this dissolution of Tao is really what happened. And that doesn't mean that like Tao is dissolved within my life, but like it took me out of Tao and put me in my ego. And when I was in my ego, I was more easily upset and offended and all of these
Yeah.
things. And I would turn to, you know, I would do these things, like I would make an argument from the kind perspective. In so doing, reveals all that remains to be done. Meaning, like I say, well, the floor needs to be clean. And now I'm raising my fist because the floor is not clean. And it's like, well, what about the windows? What about painting the whole
Yeah.
gallery? Like, you have to do all of these things if you want, and I, like I over the last, like less than 12 hours, like I've been, I was upset, and then I read this and I see, that's right. I have nothing to prove.
I
There's
love
nothing
that. I
there's
love that.
nothing there's nothing to prove. I can allow this to happen, and I can reside within myself, not the manifestation, because the
Yeah.
manifestation is just shadow. So,
Yeah. Absolutely. It's just sliding off my tea caddy. Hold on. Um,
yeah, yeah,
it's one of those where you suddenly realise you're becoming embroiled in things.
yeah. Mhm.
It's a weird one because it happens to you when you're not you didn't notice.
Right.
You
Yeah, I
didn't
didn't
notice
know.
it happening,
I
and then
didn't
you
know I was
do.
so attached to it.
Yeah,
And then I realized it wasn't that action that I was attached to. It was what the other person had done
that you were attached to.
that that
Yeah,
that 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 challenged my position. And so here we start with: the masters have nothing to prove, making their power self-evident. Others continue grasping at power, thus they never have enough. I'm fine. I don't need this kid to fucking like respect what I wanted done. He can do
yeah,
what he wants. Fuck him. Like, you don't want to fucking clean the floor. You don't. That's it. It's fine. You don't want to have it done. It's not gonna get done. I don't care. You
yeah,
know. And but in my getting upset was me having something to prove, and I don't, and I have nothing to prove, and I can let it go.
yeah. It's a good lesson for me as well.
Yeah.
That's a good lesson for me as well because I get quite attached to things. I'm just going to get some milk. 2 seconds. I'm
Yep.
making
Yep.
some tea.
What's your number?
I'm back. I'll just have to go and get the milk to make the
What's your
tea.
number?
What's my number? 23.
23. And make me a cup.
I am.
Good.
You
Good on
don't
you.
have to ask.
Good. All right. So, speaking from Dow, number 23. What brand is it? What are we drinking?
Oh, we are just going for actually Cornish tea. But I will say to you this: I've never seen a tea growing area in Cornwall, even though they say it's Cornish tea.
Mm.
Interesting, but it does
So,
taste nice.
like when we drive around the states, we see where they grow corn, and we see where they grow, soybeans and things like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
But do you when you drive around England, do you see tea growing plots?
Absolutely not. Yet we've
I
got
didn't think so.
Yorkshire tea and we've got Cornish tea. How exciting for us.
Yeah.
It's like a bit of
I
magic.
always think about that, because you guys have a lot of tea. You got,
Mm.
and it's all for English breakfast, and it's all
Yeah.
like it's all, and and I don't recall. It's been a while since I bought a PG Tips. I don't remember where they say. Maybe
Mm.
that's Indian. Maybe they grow that in India.
Yes, yeah,
Um.
but we do still get the PG here. Masses of
Yeah.
it. It's a wonderful brand that actually claims where it comes from, which is delightful.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a I'm a
Back here, put
fan.
the
It's a
milk
good.
away. Hold on. Sorry.
No, no, no.
I just
So
don't want to be rude and miss what you're saying.
so
There we go.
23 is speaking from Tao. When you speak, say what is to be said, but no more. Neither wind nor storms last all day. Nature expresses itself completely, and no matter how wild it may get, it returns to stillness. When you open yourself to Tao, you say what is to be said. Everyone will agree, because when you speak from Tao, only Tao can be heard. Now, he who aligns with Tao will only hear Tao. He who aligns with manifestation will only hear manifestation. He who aligns with failure will only hear failure. How it is heard is not your concern. Trust what is to be said, and everything will fall into place.
I like that.
You know, the thing I like most about this one is that it really expresses this idea that, like, look, when you open yourself to Tao, and I'm reading part of it, you
Mm.
say what is to be said. Everyone will agree because when you speak from Tao, only Tao can be heard. That means that if you can open yourself to speak from Tao, to say from Tao, to act from Tao, then it's perfect. Now, if you say something to someone and you are speaking from Tao and they get upset, they are getting upset because of what they heard, not what you said.
Yeah.
And that's about them. Now,
Yeah.
you don't have to be affected by that because you trust. And this is actually the thing that you and I were working on together with me.
Yeah.
Because it's about, like, look, everything that I do is perfect.
Yeah.
Everything that I say is perfect. Now, if somebody gets upset or if I'm afraid of getting in trouble,
Yeah.
that's because of how it's heard. That's because of my not, that's because of how I'm experiencing this moment, which is perfect.
Yes. And also, as you said, it's what they hear and that's for them.
That's right.
Yeah.
And if I get affected by what they hear, I am not, what is for me isn't what was heard, but how I'm experience how they have heard it.
Yeah.
So I can't be a victim to what they heard, but I can be the experiencer of this experience of them having heard what they heard. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah. Yes. Yes, it
Okay.
does. Yeah.
So this is like, I know it's called speaking from Tao, but it's really about, like, taking in this broad spectrum of experience. A lot of times when we have an experience, we say, "Oh, they did this, or they thought this, or they said this." And it's like, you had an experience.
Yeah.
What was that about? Because if you, the first thing we like to do is play the victim. And we play the victim of some experience we have from an abstract place. We don't
It's a
actually.
creation. Yeah. It's
Right.
a creation of ours.
Right. We created this thing. Just like, and it says here, he who aligns with Tao will only hear Tao. He who aligns with manifestation will only hear manifestation. He who aligns with failure will only hear failure. So if you say something to someone, I mean, I was having a conversation with someone the other day, and I was tentative about how it was going to be received.
Yeah.
But that's not my job.
That's right.
My job is to just speak as honestly and openly as I can, and
Yeah.
and allow that to land. And how it is heard does not need to be my concern.
Correct. That's
I
theirs. Yeah.
Right. I trust what is to be said, and everything will fall into place.
Yeah. And apparently, I can tell you from experience, it does fall into place beautifully.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah.
Each thing here, even sometimes when what you are receiving is painful to you, i.e., say somebody said, "Well, you're never gonna, do this. You need to really do this, that, and the other, and it's going to be difficult for you." If I'm hearing that, that's okay because that's a perspective, that's a possibility, but I can be aware of it, aware of
Right.
that possibility, and then just go with the flow. Go with the flow of it because if, say, I'm going to find it difficult, that's just going to be my experience. That's fine.
Absolutely. And when you recognize, when you become aware of finding it difficult, you you
Can
could,
sit with it. You can
right, you
sit.
could sit with it, you could play the victim of it, you could do all of the things that you do, but eventually you will come around to recognizing that you don't have to do that.
Correct.
And you could just like with me and this experience that I had with the contract that I'm doing and stuff. It was like,
Yeah.
oh, I did all this, and then all of a sudden for 8 hours I'm embroiled in frustration and anger. Why? Because I'm trapped in the manifestation, and all of a sudden I'm thinking about, well, what am I going to say, what am I going to do, what am I going to, it's like none of that matters.
No.
What matters is what is, and everything's fine. Nothing's wrong. The only thing is like your ego was hurt, right? I have this hurt ego, and it doesn't matter. And like, okay, so my
That's
ego is hurt.
that's also an experience, isn't it?
That's right. My ego is hurt, and I have to recognize my ego in this moment and recognize what it is that got hurt and make sure I mitigate that so that I'm not my value isn't attached to that,
Yeah.
because that doesn't have anything to do with my value.
Yeah, I'd say the same. I understand that some of the things that I want to experience, no matter what the outcome is, does not take away the value of me as a living entity in this experience, this Tao that we are in.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great thing to recognize. I think it's almost, this sounds really weird, but it's almost like a reward. It's almost like you have done the test, recognized it for what it is, and passed.
Yeah.
That's how it seems to me. No matter what happens, what the outcome is, it doesn't take away the value of the essence that is me in amongst all of these other essences in this Tao that we are in. Tao is everywhere. It's in me. It's in
Mhm.
you. We're all
Yeah.
connected. And so just me being here is
And
enough.
to having said all of that, that brings up the first lines. When you speak, say what is to be said, but no more. Now this could act on doing, and this could act on all, like we don't the hearing and all of the stuff. But then it says, neither wind nor storms last all day.
Yep.
Nature expresses itself completely, and no matter how wild it may get, it returns to stillness. And that's the point. It returns to stillness. You are going to return to stillness. When do you want that to happen?
Mm.
Do you want that to happen now? Or do you want that to happen in 6 weeks when you've exhausted yourself? It doesn't matter either way, but you are going to return to stillness.
Yeah.
You
Can
know?
I just bring up something here very
Yeah,
quickly?
please.
Fear of stillness. I think people find a fear in stillness.
Yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable
Yeah, but it's
because,
okay.
yeah, it's absolutely okay. One of the things that I experienced in that fear of stillness kind of space, is if I don't do something, nothing will get done.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's like, no, that's not that doesn't have anything to do with it.
It doesn't, because things
No.
still occur. Things still
Things still
happen,
occur,
even
right?
when you're
Like if I
still.
if I don't stand up for myself, then I'm going to be seen as weak. Or if I don't do this, I'm going to be seen as this. If I don't price my stuff this way, I'm going to
Yeah.
have this experience. And it's like, no, it has nothing to do with that. You are having an experience. So, Julie, come back up, and then I will get Zahara is in line, and I want to be able to bring her up. So, Julie, come back up, and we'll finish this if you can. And yep, yeah, I still have this thing where it brings you on, and gives you more than 15 minutes and cuts you off while you still have 14 seconds. I don't know how that works, but whatever. Um,
A moment of stillness.
yeah, a moment of stillness. So, if we get ahead of ourselves, and we start looking at, like, well, if I don't say something, if I don't prove my value is lost.
Yeah.
It's like, no, your value has never been lost. And you can allow, like, if I let them walk all over me, they're always going to do it, or da da da, da. It's always this fear, of, if I do nothing, nothing will get done. And it's like, no, things are getting done always.
Yeah.
And if you just allow yourself to speak without fear, to speak from Tao, how it is heard is not your concern. Of course, those who are aligned with fear are going to hear it from a place of fear. Those who are aligned with manifestation are going to hear it from a place of the manifestation. Those who are aligned with failure are going to hear it from the place of failure. But
Mm,
how it is heard, as it says in the end here, how it is heard is not your concern. Trust what is to be said, and everything will fall into place.
lovely.
Beautiful.
Thank you, you amazing
Absolutely, dear.
man.
Yep.
I'm
And
going to
it's
step down.
23. Thank you so much.
23 is a good one.
It's a good one.
I'll be listening to Zahara.
Wonderful. This is the first time I believe I've spoke to Zahara.
How you doing?
I am well, Zahara. How are you?
Yeah, I was trying to explain to you that I apologize. I said on podcast. I was offended because I didn't understand what you mean by nothing thanks.
Oh,
And I don't want to, disturb your day. I didn't
no, no, no,
understand
no.
that.
No, I don't, like, I don't listen to a whole lot of music. I didn't have to hear anything. That was good.
No, you can suggest, I could be your
Oh,
DJ,
that's, yeah, I don't have suggestions. I accept what is. So this is, so this is Tao of the Day. I don't know if you've heard Tao of the Day before,
No,
but
I
Tao.
never heard of that.
Okay. So Tao of the Day uses the Tao Te Ching. The Tao Te Ching is a ancient text written about 600 BCE, and it contains all of this sort of lessons on how to live a more reasonable life. And living a reasonable life looks like not asking the world to change for us. And it consists of these 81 chapters. So what I do is I ask my guests to pick a number between 1 and 81, and then we read a chapter together. We get some ideas, and then we go through it line by line.
Okay. I think the tale of the day should be about grace. Grace means
Okay, do you have a
favor.
number between 1 and 81?
181, I would say 17, my favorite number.
17. We're going to read number 17. Number 17 is entitled Of Masters and Leaders. In the time of the great masters, there were no leaders. Then those whom the people loved led the way. After having created the position, the people feared their leaders. Then they despised them. Having created leaders, their faith in Tao was diminished. Having become a leader, his trust in the people was diminished. When there are great masters, there are no leaders. She works all day and night and says nothing about it. When the work is done, the people say, "Amazing, we did it all by ourselves." What are your thoughts about that?
I think that was amazing, and it's about the leader and the lady who did respect the leaders, right?
Yeah, eventually. So when you make a leader, so what it says here in the beginning is, in the time of the masters, there were no leaders. And then those whom the people loved led the way. Because that's what happens when you have a group of people. You you all may love one person just a little bit more, and you might start asking them for advice. But after having created the position of the leader, the people feared their leaders because their leaders were involved in all of their shit. And then
Right, right,
they despised their leaders. Then they didn't want to go to their leaders anymore. Why? Because they were already all wrapped up in their stuff, and they were just like, I just want to live my life. And so that is the dissolution of a leader. It's, we can start with a group where there are no leaders, but eventually someone, you know, takes control, and then all of a sudden there's a leader. Now we got to vote for the leader and we got to do all of this stuff. But ultimately what ends up happening is we start despising our leaders. We just want to be left alone.
right. And sometimes we get this, like you said, we despise our leaders. Sometimes we might, follow that same leader, and then we get, you know, to the point where vote for another leader, but we don't want no other leader than that leader. And so sometimes we may feel like, hey, I just getting tired of following that same person.
And maybe we get
And
following anybody at all. It's like
yeah,
we gotta vote for a president. I don't even want one. Get it up, yeah. I don't even just like leave me alone. But it's like
yeah,
we have created the position, and that position has so much history to it that now we have to vote rather than just being like, well, can we vote to even have a president? Can we even vote to
right.
like can we vote to get rid of this motherfucker? Cause like what the hell's
You're right. You're right.
and that's what this is like. And then at the end of here, when there are great masters, meaning people who are not trying to be leaders, when there are great masters, there are no leaders. she
Right, Uncle
works
John. Right, Uncle Martin.
she works all day and night and says nothing about it. When the work is done, the people say, amazing, we did it all by ourselves. Because the leader, the master, isn't trying to get attention, isn't trying to be something for anyone else. She's just going about her business. And by her being a an example, everybody gets up and does what they need to do.
Right.
That's number
And
17.
I want to ask you a question. Can I
Yeah.
call you Uncle?
Yeah, you can call me uncle.
What's up, Uncle? And I just wanted you to know, family, I love you. I want to applaud Mr. Martin John. I've been trying to talk with you for so long. I want to applaud you, and that's what I wanted to do. And hop on here and let you know that I love you. And I apologize. Yeah, I
No.
know you probably didn't hear what I said, but I just want to apologize to you. And I want to spread positive vibes to you. And God bless you, okay?
Oh, I love you, dear. Thank you so much.
You're
And God,
welcome. Like,
like, we are connected and always have been, and I'm grateful for it.
yes, okay, I gotta go live right now. I'm doing
Yeah,
random topics. So I need a little help. I need recipes. It's my birthday tomorrow, so
it's your
shout out to Mama
birthday. Well,
Shelly.
happy birthday.
No, my
Um,
mommy.
oh, it's your mom's birthday.
Yeah, mine's in August.
Oh, okay. Well, we got some
Yes,
time.
later
Um,
August, the eighth month
recipes.
of the
I
year.
cook. I cook all the time. And the things that I cook are restricted because I have multiple sclerosis. I got a little MS, and so
Oh
I,
my
I'm on a
Jesus.
I'm on a very restricted diet. But what I do, like I make a lot of greens, so collards, kale, turnip greens, and all of those things really support my MS to such a degree that I don't even take medication anymore for it. And so I would always say, no matter what you're cooking, make sure there's some greens available.
No, no, Martin John. I'm talking about a cake for her.
Oh,
For her birthday.
cake! I don't have
Yeah.
any cake recipes. I cannot eat sugar.
Oh, okay, okay. Cause she don't drink milk, so I was like, I don't know what.
Oh,
She's
is
lactose
it too?
intolerant, so she's turning 58. You guys, Mama Shelly. Y'all can call her
58.
Mama Shelly. Her name Michelle, but y'all can call her
So,
Mama
well, I
Shelly.
would, I would, maybe. Well, if she doesn't, I would tend toward pie.
Okay, pie for
Yeah,
Mama
I would
Shelly.
think. I would think. Where are you at in the states?
Miami.
Miami. Hmm. I would say I would like that has to be a lighter pie because like it's so warm down there.
Yes, it is. It's hot.
Yeah, it's hot. So I would say maybe a maybe a rhubarb, like something tart. Maybe like a strawberry rhubarb pie.
She likes sweet potato pie.
Oh, so I would think that that's pretty. Sweet potato pie would be great, but it would just be it might just be a little too hot for sweet potato pie.
Yeah.
You know, sweet potato pie is a real heavy pie. But you know, like you like there's the tartness of rhubarb, which is why I would because I mean I don't know what is down in there's a lot of they do the Cuban thing down in Miami.
Yeah.
And I
And
don't know too many Cuban cakes. Especially without milk. Is she lactose intolerant?
oh, Jesus. I'm sorry. Yes, she is. I'm sorry.
That's all right. Like
Yeah,
that's
the value went up. It went woo, like I was scared.
yeah.
Oh, Jesus, I'm from Atlanta. That's why I had this southern accent. I moved here 7 years ago.
Oh, 7 years ago
Uh,
from where?
yeah, from Atlanta. I'm originally from Atlanta.
Mm.
Atlanta, Georgia. I'm a southern girl.
Oh, I can hear that.
Hmm.
So the Cubans have a sweet potato pudding. That
Okay.
might be nice.
There's some good suggestions. And,
Yeah.
I
So
always be
if
brief
you
on
were to
people's
Google,
channel, though. I'm
if
letting you know
you
I'll
were
be brief on people's channel. So, you
yeah.
know, I just want to let you know I want to thank God for you.
Oh, well,
Thank
thank
you
you.
for your suggestions. I love you.
Love you.
God
Have a
bless you.
wonderful and you go live and I'll see if I can swing up with you.
Okay, buddy. All right. Take care, Uncle.
All right, have a good one. Bye-bye.
Okay, I gotta leave. Okay.
Okay. Well, no one else is in queue, so I'm going to go ahead and start signing off unless somebody wants to jump in. Sweet potato pudding for I think that might be a nice thing. Oh, you can add grated coconut to it. I saw it on insanelygoodrecipes.com Cuban-desserts. So if you're looking for some sweet potato pudding. I looked it up because Cuba's hot. Miami's hot. And I don't know anything about hot weather just because I'm up here outside of Chicago. So it gets cold, and it was a beautiful day today. I was just out in my hoodie, but doesn't get super super hot. I mean, it does for a couple months, but that's about it. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me for Tao of the Day. We covered number 17 of Masters and Leaders. I also covered one with. I also covered number 38 and say what is to be said, right? Like speaking from Tao, number 23. Thank you so much once again. I appreciate you guys joining me. And until next time, keep recovering yourself.